Good morning, everyone. We are here to reconvene City Council Bill 23-0428, Mayor's Redistricting Plan. I'm City Council President Nick J. Mosby. Today, I am joined to my far left by Chairman Bullock, Council Member Dorsey, Council Member Cohen, Councilwoman Ramos, Chairman Costello stepped out real quickly, Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, Chairman Stokes, Councilwoman Porter, and Chairman Conway. With me today, we have from the President's Office, Tiffany Macklin, Dexter Lockamy, and Aaron DeGraffenwright, as well as Jen Haslam. From the Mayor's side, we have Dominic McLilly. Am I saying that right? Oh, Mackley, just we run it all together. Mackley for the mayor's team and we will also introduce members from finance, law, and that's all on the line. We also have Sarah from the planning department. I guess jumping right back into it, I think one of the main pieces of the discussion we had earlier this week surrounded timing. Obviously the council received the bill, the proposed language, and was introduced the previous Monday. And because of the 60-day rule and the ultimate opinion by the city solicitor, the council needed to take immediate action for the council to have any legislative or full legislative oversight over this particular bill. I think a request has gone out to the mayor's office through you, Mr. Chief of Staff, if you could speak on behalf of that timing discussion that we talked about and where we are. I don't believe that we received a response to date.
Thank you again, Mr. President. We received that response yesterday and have not had the 24 hours to confer with the mayor yet and or scheduling, particularly on dates in which you have sent over. But what I would like before we get started is for our legal to be able to just respond and to what your general request was, and then we'll go into that.
Okay, the understanding of this committee was that we were leaving it on the same page with two things. One was ensuring that we had access to the shape files because it's really tough for the council to do its job with a picture. And we received credentials to planning, I think, as of like 8:30, 9 o'clock last night, which was not satisfactory to this committee. Obviously, again, really hard for us to do our job as a council in dealing with the map if we don't have access to the map that we're working from as it relates to the legislation. And that's unfair to council members who have boundaries that they're very supportive of for us to then try to go and, I guess, mimic that picture into any type of shape form because it's really challenging to go street by street. Obviously Baltimore City is a very large city, and imagine looking at a map and just kind of retracing different boundaries on such a large street. So
yes, sir. For clarity, Mr. President, is that what you received last night is access to the GIS planning tool, which gives you the ability to be able to do everything that you just asked to do. So it is not about operating just by a picture alone or by being able to see a street. You're more than able to see all of the things that you are looking and seeking to do via the GIS planning tool.
I appreciate that. I guess the concern is, and what I was attempting to raise, it seemed like maybe there was a disconnect coming from Tuesday's meeting. Us receiving those credentials last night at 9 o'clock to us meeting today at 10 o'clock doesn't give the council a whole lot of time to do the council's job. I think we were very explicit last Tuesday about the time frame in which the solicitor's opinion put the council in. So I think that's where the concern is. Yes, we've received the credentials. I think I communicated that at the beginning of my statement. However, again, in the past 12 hours, the council does not have the time to kind of do the type of needed changes that council members might want to do our legislative duty associated with it. I also was under the impression, and I thought it was very clear, I think maybe we talked about it 2 or 3 times, that the administration was going back to evaluate if they would be willing to kind of do some level of agreement associated with timing. Here we are today. You know, the council will have to continue to move forward. You know, obviously we continue to work through some less than ideal conditions at times, and we will do our job, but wanted to make sure that we kind of put that on record. So thank you, Mr. Chief of Staff. I guess, Mr. Deputy Solicitor, you had some context to add to the discussion. Before we go to you, sorry, Deputy Solicitor, we do have a question or comment from Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adding on to the President's comments, because I referenced this shortly after he did on Tuesday. So to be clear, the specific ask was that would the mayor commit in writing that if the council were to not move this bill out of committee of the whole to the full council on October 2nd because of the constraints as outlined in law around the schedule, that the mayor would give the council appropriate time, if it were to amend the map, to either sign it into law or veto it, and specifically not pocket or have it go into law without signature, so that the council could respond and take action. So I think that's what the request is. And well, I guess what I'm hearing is that the mayor has not made a decision on that yet.
Well, to be clear, the mayor has, in agreement with law, right, is that we're looking to not limit the scope of the executive authority of the mayor. And at the same time, what we've been very clear here, not only just within this body, but of course to the members as well, which is that we are going to work diligently within the 60 days to get this done. We are more than willing to commit that in writing, but the idea that we are looking to limit that scope is not one that I believe would be on the table for the mayor.
So let me frame it a different way. I think I hear what you're saying. If the council doesn't have a written assurance from the mayor that, think of this as a game of ping pong, right? When you introduced the bill, when the administration introduced the bill, which is what's required by the charter, the ball is now in our court. When the committee of the whole votes the bill out, either as is or amended, and sends it to second reader and then third reader, it is then sent back to the mayor. When we send that bill back to the mayor, the ball will be in the mayor's court, and the mayor has the ability to either sign it into law or essentially enact the mayor's will because of the schedule that the law department has laid out for us. So if we send it back to you, the mayor gets to do what the mayor would like to do. This isn't any fault of the mayor. This is a product of the schedule and the constraints on the schedule consistent with the laws the law department has laid out. So what we're asking is, if we hold off on moving this to the full council on Monday and double reading it on Monday, which would be rushing it, will the mayor commit that the council will have another crack at this before the 60 days is up? And I think what you're saying is the answer is no, the mayor is not willing to limit his executive authority through, say, an arbitrary written agreement that commits to the council that the council will still have another crack at it. And that's the only thing I'm trying to get to the bottom of. And I just want to make sure I'm asking that question clearly so that everyone understands what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Again, I understand your question and I understand the council's concern. I think where we are at conflict from the administration side is about, one, limiting the scope of the mayor, but then also more importantly, the belief that we are looking to not have the map, to not have a map that has gone through and has worked through council, which has been in consultation with the mayor's office. We do not have that desire. I just unfortunately cannot provide you that level of assurance.
I don't understand the second point. I understand you said limiting the scope of the mayor, but your second point, what does that mean?
Which means that for over, I would like to say probably before my predecessors have gotten here, my predecessors, and then as well during my tenure, that I've worked to sit down with all 14 council members to be able to hear about what changes and/or what things they would like to stay within their district. Well, over on top of that, throughout this process, I've provided additional time for council members if they would like to come and to speak with me, but also to be able to hear from them to be able to make those changes. I think what we are saying and what the mayor has said is that we are more than willing to work with the council to be able to get that done. At the same time, it is very hard for us to be able to just limit the scope of the mayor. And I mean, I will, if there is something that you would like to confer with me with legal about and/or planning, but that is our stance.
Yeah, I guess that's where some level of troublesome kind of enters the discussion. There's an expectation, not just from this council, but from the citizens of Baltimore, that the administration and the mayor would do us due diligence in working through all legislative actions that will ultimately come to the council. So, I appreciate the fact that you've gone around, you've worked with the council, and we're going to constantly work with you, but that's just first base, right? That is, it's unacceptable not to do that, right? But that activity doesn't supersede the legislative autonomy that the council has. And every turn around the road regarding this particular bill, we've been met with some major concerns about the administration restricting our legislative autonomy. The biggest thing being the maps, and the fact that I think we have made it a large point over the past couple of weeks. We made it part of the discussion on Tuesday, and then to receive it as of 9 o'clock last night, credentials. Obviously, anyone from the planning department or anyone that's been working on your side to help kind of develop the map would know that that's a logical or reasonable time frame for us to be prepared today.
Yes, sir.
So in coming to today, when we have not been provided the appropriate information to do our job, I'm also hearing that if we basically do not vote it out today, then and double read it and do the special meetings on Monday, then the mayor is not willing to commit to develop an internal time frame of the administration that the council will be in the position to do its legislative oversight associated with this bill. The problem is not about the mayor, the administration. The problem is not about the council. The problem is literally about providing accessibility and transparency to the residents of Baltimore to have access, to have input into the development of this redistricting process. I too have gone through a redistricting process in this chamber. There was a tremendous amount of town halls. There was a lot of community engagement. And the position that the administration is putting this council in is literally putting a gun to us, forcing us to either vote something out from a rush perspective or just allow the mayor's map to go into law. Obviously, that's something that the mayor probably does not want. It's definitely something that the council doesn't want. But this is the position that you're putting us in with when we're talking about conflating the issue around accessibility to the shapefile, and now this inability for you guys to agree that the council will be in a position to take legislative oversight action so choose if the mayor decides that the map that comes out of the council is problematic for him to sign into law.
So what I would like to speak to for the sake of just of record and also conversation, we received from your office yesterday a timeline. That timeline was sent probably around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, as you know, and everyone on the council, would need time to confer with the mayor regarding that timeline. Also, planning will speak today, per our meeting that we had on Tuesday, about the adjustment in which we needed to go through in being able to make the map accessible for the council. And so they will speak to that today as well. And why you received the credentials at the time that you received. To be very clear, there was no intention to give it to you late, or to make it feel as though that we're putting a gun to your head. They will speak to that matter as of today. But just in being very earnest, Mr. President, again, the desire here is to absolutely give the council time, and more importantly, to be able to have community engagement as well throughout this process. We are committed to that.
Okay, so you said a lot, and to try to retrace and go back over. I don't think there's anybody in this body anybody in this room that participated in the discussion on Tuesday that did not understand the game plan and next steps that we needed from the administration. And that was an agreement that you guys would give the council the ability, based off of timing, to do our legislative oversight and have full legislative control of this particular bill and not, quote unquote, run the clock out. Right after that meeting, emails were sent to the administration asking that question. You asked us to develop a schedule that would be consistent with us. We pushed it to the last possible minute of when the mayor could make that decision and the council still could have their activity, and we sent that back to you. But that didn't preclude you guys from coming up with an idea that you were gonna allow the council the ability to have action, to take action. What I'm hearing today is because of mayoral executive of control, that is possibly not an opportunity, that you will work with us, and that sounds great, and I appreciate that. I think that we always need to continue to work together. However, there is not a commitment that the council will have the ability to take further action if we don't force the action between today and on Monday. And that's all that we ask. That's all we ask coming out of it. The council is extremely flexible, that we get the bill back inside of that 60 days, and we have the ability to take action. That's exactly what we've asked for and what we wanted. And I thought that we were extremely clear. And colleagues, if maybe I've misspoken, or maybe you guys did not understand the direction or position that I kind of laid out on multiple occasions on Tuesday, I believe that we all left here with that clear understanding. Is that not the case?
Yes, sir. We absolutely agreed, and more importantly, as I stated in the council meeting, would look to be able to review the said time and dates, and more importantly, to confer. To be very clear, Mr. Council President, I did not agree upon said terms.
No.
What I asked was to be able to have time to be able to confer with the mayor. Totally. And more importantly, with council. The letter in which we received yesterday is one that I've had, that I've had the opportunity to review, and thus in reviewing, is our responses today.
Again, I guess that was us doing your job. We left here saying the only thing that we wanted was the ability for us to have some legislative oversight control of the entire process, meaning if the mayor wanted to veto, that we would have the ability to override, period, right? We left this meeting with that understanding. We sent an email with that understanding, and then we followed up yesterday and kind of laid out what that date would look like based off of your request to us. I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse. It seems like we're somewhat at an impasse. We just want to know from the administration today, in writing, in letterhead, if the mayor will work with the council to give us the autonomy to do our full legislative process associated with districting. I think that's pretty clear at the moment. Do you think you will be able to get back to us today?
Yes, sir. As I stated in the beginning, you will have an official response for us per the fact that we received the letter yesterday in response today.
Thank you. Definitely interested also, and I don't want to try to bring into motivations, but we talked about it on numerous occasions about the council having access to the shape file prior to the administration introducing it last Monday. We talked about the importance and critical need of it on Tuesday. And again, I appreciate receiving credentials as of 9 p.m., 8:30 p.m. Last night, but definitely interested in trying to understand. I think you said planning is prepared to talk to us about this process and why it's happened. Really interested historically, has this always been the case? Again, I think that this council has tried to professionalize many processes and operations and engagements between this legislative body and the administration. Maybe those practices were consistent to what was done in the past, where the council was just receiving a PDF or a picture to make the terms generic. But I know planning's on to kind of walk us through that. So thank you for walking us through the schedule. We look forward to receiving, again, a letter from you or the mayor kind of detailing out the administration's approach on whether we need to take immediate action, or you will put the council in the position to allow the community to be engaged in this process from an open and transparent perspective. So I think we're good on that discussion. Before we go on to the maps, are there any questions, concerns from members regarding this one particular issue? Thank you. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chief of Staff, now is the time to go to the maps, or would you like the Deputy Solicitor to kind of add additional context?
We're open to whatever agenda you would like to, Mr. President.
Deputy Solicitor, do you have any additional?
No, Mr. Council President.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, I guess from a planning perspective, you said that you guys wanted to walk us through the issue with the map and the council just receiving the map as of last night. Well, access to the map as of last night.
Hi, good morning. This is Sarah Parnell. I'm from the Baltimore City Department of Planning. Excuse me, I apologize, I'm not there in person. I am ill, but I will try and answer any questions. We worked to create an app that allows the council to be able to look at scenarios if precincts are moved from one district to another and see what the impact of that is in terms of the population distribution. So using that app, you can look at kind of what the different scenarios are based on different proposals of moving precincts between council districts. It updates in real time the bar charts on the side so that you can see kind of what the population distribution is. The app uses the adjusted population, the adjusted prison population, and because that was pointed out in the hearing on Tuesday. And so it did take us some time to gather that data and process that data and make sure it aligned with the new precinct lines, because the data was adjusted, I think, for some purposes prior to the new precinct lines. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were giving the accurate data, and so that took a little bit of time to process.
Thank you. So did anything change with the boundary from Tuesday until last night when you sent us your credentials?
The proposed boundaries that you see are the same, but you will see that the distribution of the population is a little bit different because of the adjustments based on the prison population.
I understand. I appreciate that. On Tuesday, were the layered GIS files, were the layered map files, were they completed and done on Tuesday? Did you have access to those?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand this.
So the layered GIS files, the GIS comes in different layers from a boundary perspective. Those files were completed in order for you guys to provide us the PDF picture that you did on the submission of this piece of legislation last Monday, correct?
I mean, so we have provided the files are in the GIS application that you're looking at.
Understood. I know that we have credentials now to your system. Truly appreciate it as of 8:30 last night. I guess the question is, on Tuesday, those GIS layered files had to be completed in order for you to complete the PDF picture that you provided to the council a week prior, right?
Yes, I'm not the technical GIS expert, but I would
Understood.
say yes.
That's fine. I guess the point I'm just trying to make is, when we asked prior to submission, when we asked at submission, and then when we asked on Tuesday, obviously there were GIS files out there that the council should have had access to in order for us to do our legislative oversight job of this particular process. I think the last thing I want to ask is, when was planning engaged on providing the council access to the shape file associated with redistricting? It was my understanding that you were not, and that last Tuesday's meeting is when planning got engaged to provide the council with the actual shape file. Just want to confirm.
Correct.
That's correct?
If I understand correctly, we worked on putting together the app that you received immediately after Tuesday's hearing.
No, I get, so there were several requests from the council to the administration for us to have access to the shape file prior to the introduction of the bill, after introductory of the bill, and definitely on Tuesday in front of everybody in the chambers today. I guess the question, just real simple, on Tuesday, was that the first request that planning received to put together what you put together that we received last night at 8:30?
Well, we put together the public-facing app before that, which we thought provided an interactive, for both the council as well as the public, an interactive opportunity far beyond a PDF in order to be able to see the population of each precinct and zoom in and zoom out. You could see street boundaries. That's what we had prepared prior.
Yes, and I think this council, along with you, determined that that was insufficient for the council to do its job. How the dynamic map that provided data associated with precinct by precinct, it didn't provide the council the ability to actually make district-specific boundary changes. Is that accurate?
It had the information in it that you could use to propose boundaries, but the updated app makes it sort of more interactive to be able to do that more easily.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the question again. The council is going through this has an arduous task of going and looking at boundary maps and changing those boundary maps. Inside those boundary maps are hundreds, if not thousands, of different points. If one person wants to move one precinct over or two precincts over, it affects other points of the map, and you kind of have to play around with it. Did the council have the ability of doing that? I thought it was very clear, and we determined that on Tuesday, but just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Did the council have the ability of doing that until 8:30 last night?
Not directly, I guess.
Okay, so back to my original question, when was planning engaged to provide the council the ability of doing the council's job associated with this districting process by giving us the ability to make changes to the proposed map in this legislation? My assumption was that was Tuesday, but I don't want to speak for the administration nor the Department of Planning.
Yeah, I believe I already explained that the app that we provided yesterday, we were engaged to work on Tuesday.
Gotcha, and that was the first time is what I'm asking.
Correct.
Thank you. And again, this lies the crux of the matter. Mr. Chief of Staff and to the administration, you know, no one, I don't think, on this side has tried to say it was based off of any level of motivation or trying to limit the council from doing its job. I guess the point that we want to make in the position that we're in, it creates the council's job extremely, it creates several different challenges and roadblocks for the council to do its job. In speaking with the administration, again, prior to submission, at submission, and after submission, this is a point that I raised and that we've been raising and asking about. because we didn't want to get to this point. And then when you conflate that with just the tightened schedule based off of the solicitor's opinion, it just creates a tremendous amount of complexities for this council. With that, from questions associated with the map or the process, are there any questions from members of the council? Be it there aren't any questions from the council, I think that before I go to the next step, is there anyone on the council that would like to talk about any specific issues, problems, questions, or concerns with their map that weren't brought up on Tuesday? I know that we collected 3 or 4 concerns. Just want to make sure that folks have the ability to put on the record any questions or concerns that you might have associated with the boundary. Hearing and seeing none there. I think the next step is it's challenging for the council to make a decision. Obviously, the council would like to lean in the most transparent and accessible process for the constituents. I think to date, we've had 2 folks comment on this bill. We would like to have a nighttime meeting. We would like to also potentially maybe do a virtual town hall, since we can't do the robust town hall schedule that was done maybe 10 years ago. But obviously we are precluded from doing that if we cannot work out an agreement with the administration that would allow the opportunity for the council to potentially override and have full legislative activity and action. So with that, I think it's critically important for us to kind of wait to see what the administration decides to do, and to kind of take next steps from there. So does that, I want to make sure that when we leave here, we're all in the same understanding and posture about what's critically needed next, and where we can kind of go from there. So do we have an understanding, right, Mr. James? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I appreciate that. So, and I'll ask, just like I asked on Tuesday, if you could just copy the full council with the decision by the mayor, and then we can kind of go from there. We do have Mr. Tony Fairfax on, and I believe he has either a question or a comment. If we could elevate Mr. Fairfax and unmute him. Mr. Fairfax?
Yes, Council President.
Yes, the floor is yours.
Excellent. The process that I'm familiar with would be a process where a plan would be presented and the criteria would be also presented. Criteria would be what is in the Baltimore City Charter. And so the idea, the concept is how well that plan fits that criteria. And so far I haven't seen that. And this would be, of course, contiguity, compactness, political subdivision splits, preserving communities of interest. And there will be some indicator associated with that, with communities of interest, potentially would show something. Compactness would provide some measure or measurements that will allow you to provide a contiguity, so forth and so on. And one of the reasons why you do that is if there is another alternative plan, that can be used to basically gauge, what's a better plan insofar as the criteria. You may still not go with the plan, but at least you need to know how those stand with the criteria. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fairfax. Again, I'm going to open it up for the council. Any questions or concerns? I assume we do not, but want to make sure. Hearing and seeing none, I think it's time that we can just, you have something for me, Dexter? Oh, people actually do want to testify. I think that we're gonna go down the process of probably not at this point recessing the hearing to determine where the administration is. Everyone be on the lookout for you in your inboxes for that communication from the administration, and then from there we're gonna have to figure out what it looks like between then and Monday at 5. Obviously, if the administration cannot find in its power to ensure that the council has legislative oversight autonomy throughout the entire process, meaning the ability to override a mayor's veto, based off of the opinion from the city solicitor, then the council will have to take appropriate action as of Monday, precluding us from having additional public hearings about this particular matter. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. With that, we're going to go into public testimony. We appreciate the folks who have decided to come out and participate in this process. Civic engagement is critically important. Transparency and accessibility to this council is extremely important, and we thank you for your time. The first name I have is Jeannie, and I can't see your handwriting. You might be a doctor. Jenny? Yeah. What's her last name? She's your constituent. Hey, Jenny. You press the right button, and it should light up red. And you can pull the mic down a little bit.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, President Mosby and esteemed members of the council. I'm going to keep my comments short because you've been left at a disadvantage with this timeline and with the lack of communication provided to you as requested. I will say the maps offered by the mayor's office and your consultant are distinct in their differences. Baltimore is a city made special by its neighborhoods and communities, and the community continuity is not clearly respected or reflected in the mayor's proposed map. The continuity is much more well maintained through the consultant's maps and respects the generations that it takes to develop community, neighborhood, and strong association. I just ask that you please consider both as you are entering into term limits that will not allow you to see the next redistricting action, and you are setting the precedent for leadership today that will be used as an example for the next redistricting that unfortunately you will not be allowed to be part of, that you please think about how your communities can be engaged between now and Monday. If you are put on a timeline where Monday is the action you have to take, but I beg the administration and the council to please find a way to properly engage your communities, your neighborhood leadership, and your constituents so that they have a voice in this process because they have not yet had that opportunity.
Thank you so much. To that point, I think you raised a couple really important facts. The one thing I want to highlight to this council is I think that we've learned through this process that there needs to be some reform to the charter associated with this process, be it timeline. What other jurisdictions have done in the past is a preliminary map has been put out there prior to formal introduction, so the 60-day clock doesn't necessarily start. Folks have the ability to kind of stare and compare and talk about it, as well as ensuring that the council's provided the necessary tools when we receive the information to ensure that we're able to do our legislative work. Obviously through partnership, we want that to be natural, but then also I think it's really important that we harden it for future councils based off of some of your points that you've highlighted. So thank you so much. Next up, Sarah Blower.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everyone. My name is Sarah Bluer, and I'm a resident of Old Goucher. Live right next to near 22nd and St. Paul, where the iconic buildings of Goucher University used to be. So really, I'm here because I took a look at the map when it came out, and I was a little surprised to see that Old Goucher is being cut into parts, and I'm in the part that's now what some people are calling like the dog leg, which I guess maybe there's like a fire hydrant under there somewhere because it's definitely raised up and it looks like a finger just pointing away from the rest of, what is gonna be proposed as District 7. So I'm here because I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers on compactness or continuity, but a neighborhood is really defined, in my opinion, by where you walk and share space. Our neighbors in Barclay and Old Goucher, we're coming together right now to be able to work together on understanding how we use our shared spaces and have visions for those spaces. So we don't really walk across 83 and say hello to our neighbors across 83 and District 7 is largely west of 83. So these big barrier roads define neighborhoods, and even North Ave. I mean, we don't really wave across North Ave at our neighbors. So I think it's really important that the public, there's about 12 of us in the room right now. I think half of us are journalists here. So this isn't really a public hearing. It's the middle of the workday for most people. I think this is a really important issue because a council person has limited attention, right? And so even if they want to pay attention to everyone, they're really looking at swaths, I think, of continuous neighborhoods with shared concerns. And if you look at the shape of District 7, it's the only part of the map that looks like this, where there's this little projection coming out of it. That's where I live. And we don't really share the same concerns, I don't think, or spaces that the majority of District 7 does. So we would be kind of left out hanging. But I also want to say, it impacts our near neighbors because right now that little piece includes shared spaces that, you know, like Calvert Street Park, formerly King and Kennedy Park, that's largely used by residents of Barclay and Old Goucher, but that would now fall into this little projection that, you know, they don't have a say. And I've heard from neighbors who have visions for that, for there to be more youth engagement there and infrastructure there. So it really, I think, does a disservice to us directly in that little piece and to our surrounding neighbors. And this is just one example, but it really seems like an issue that everybody should have opportunity to actually understand more fully. So please, to the administration and the council, please do whatever is in your power to actually slow this down, have legitimate public hearings and town halls at a time when more people can come and have had time to know that this is happening and can weigh in so that we can preserve our communities and actually, you know, continue to work together to build communities where we actually live, walk, you know, see our neighbors and share spaces together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bluer. Just to kind of elevate, I guess, some of the things that she just spoke about, council members, if you remember, I believe that was one of the points that the expert, Mr. Tony Fairfax, kind of highlighted and had a back and forth dialogue and discussion with the council member of that particular district. Next up, I see Elizabeth Ryan.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here today, City Council. My name is Elizabeth Wren. I'm not only a member of Moral Park Community, but I also work for Access Art, which is an afternoon school program. And right now, Moral Park is going to be split in two with this new direction. And the thing is our community just is now coming together. We have been separated for many years, and we are working on reorganizing everything. And just yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk to over 100 families in our Moral Park community with our food drive, and none of them are for this plan. And I feel like our voices need to be heard as a community, and I know y'all haven't had the time, and just, I beg of y'all to please slow this down, let the people talk, let everybody be heard, and please don't separate our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wren. And then last and certainly not least, Ms. Angela Zanti. I believe she was the only in-person, you like to testify again? In-person testimony at our Tuesday hearing. Thank you for coming back,
No
Madam
problem.
President.
Thank you. Thank you for the chance to speak. My name's Angela Zanti. I'm Moral Park Community Association. I wanted to basically just say, I just wanted to express and clarify that the proposed map, it does separate Moral Park in two different districts. We've really been working with Ms. Porter and other nonprofits in the neighborhood to get our community together as a whole. Elizabeth is also with Moral Park, and we've been working very well together, and we just really want to have the extra time to also get more voices from our community. We did post on Facebook, and there's a high majority of people on Facebook that are really wanting to express their concerns, but during this time, a lot of people are at work, and we really just want to be able to get it out to the community, what is going on, and have more voices heard through Morrow Park, and hopefully keep Morrow Park in one district. And again, Ms. Porter, she's been awesome. Her and Nikki, wonderful. So I just thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Madam President. At this time, if there aren't any additional questions or concerns, is there anybody online? Yeah, if you could do the hand raise function, if you would like to provide any additional testimony online. Mr. Wells, we're elevating you to speak. Can you hear us, Mr. Wells? Mr. Wells? If you can hear us, we can't hear you. Maybe you're on mute. Mr. Wells? If there's anybody else online that would like to speak, if you could please use the raise hand function. Okay, if not, at this time, I think, it is someone? Mr. Prost?
Yes.
Yes, sir, you can begin to speak.
Okay, thank you. Tuesday, the same issue. This is not.
Mr. Prost, unfortunately, I'm not sure if there's a network connection, but we're having trouble hearing you.
Let me try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Prost, we're still having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. I would just like to agree and ratify the statement for previous in-person that it's not enough to have no input from the communities, and Baltimore is and this current plan just divides all the neighborhoods. We work to try to make a cohesive Bolton Hill in by drawing the line at McMecken Street, just reinforce all the past problems with divisiveness in the community. It just is an inappropriate plan and has no opportunity for citizen neighborhood input into the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prost. I think this was an issue that we spoke about on Tuesday. Someone from your neighborhood shared those same concerns. The representative for the district, Chairman Costello, if you would like to provide additional context to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Prost, for being engaged. I know you testified on Tuesday. Just for the benefit of everyone on the committee, I'll take the liberty of summarizing your concerns just because there were some connection issues, so folks in chambers had issues hearing you clearly. In short, it is the position of Mr. Prost as well as the Bolton Hill Community Association, which currently entirely resides in the 11th district, which in the proposed map is proposed to be split between the 11th and 7th district, for the Bolton Hill Community Association to remain in one council district. It appears they seem pleased with being in the 11th district, but again, would prefer to stay in one council district. Council President Mosby and I, as well as Councilman Torrance, are all in receipt of the letter stating BHCA's position, which was transmitted via email earlier this week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, no questions or concerns? If not, so I guess we will wait to be in receipt of communication from the mayor when the administration comes up with the plan for us to move next steps. Council members, be on the lookout, not only for that, but for a response from my office so we can figure out from a scheduling perspective between now and Monday what our council schedule looks like. With that, I'm going to put the meeting in recess. Just for the record, this is City Council Bill 23-0428, Mayor's Redistricting Plan. We're now in recess. We love you, Baltimore.